Hello, this is Matt, and I want to talk about the history of gold and World War I. Now, before World War I, everybody's on the gold standard, but 1914 to 1918, Europe temporarily goes off the gold standard so that they're able to print currency. So during World War I, US, we stayed on gold standard. So we became the ones that were sending product to Europe, and they were sending gold to us. So we were benefiting from World War I. We didn't enter into the war until 1917, so we really missed the first couple years, and we profited from what we sent to them. Now, during the war, the British currency devalued by 35%, the French currency by 64%, and Germany took the biggest hit, 96% devalued. So the Treaty of Versailles in 1919 made Germany responsible for all the reparations. They had to pay to rebuild Europe. So what happened from 1921 to 23? You had the Weimar, right? The hyperinflation. It was incredible. Now, Britain tried to resume a gold standard. They went back to the original rate of £1 equal to $4.86. That was the exchange rate before the war, and they tried to do the same thing after the war, but the ratio was off. Market value was $3.50. So if you were from Britain and you came to the US, your pounds didn't go as far as you thought they should. As a citizen of Britain, you are no longer using gold coins, plus you could not go to the bank and give them paper to exchange for gold. So it was a gold standard, but it was a little different. It was gold redemption for international customers or central banks from other countries. British pound became the reserve currency from 1925 to 1931. So if you wanted to peg your French francs to the British pound, you could, and if you wanted to redeem them, you could redeem 400-ounce gold bullion bars. And in the US, we were fortunate enough that you could still take a $20 bill, go to a bank and exchange it for a $20 gold double eagle. We stayed on the gold standard. So we roared through the 20s, then boom, stock market crash in 1929 led to the Depression. So now we're talking about 1929, 1930, housing prices are going down, unemployment's going up. We're actually in a deflation. There was too much restriction on the currency, so people said we need to create more currency. We need to inflate the money, put more money in the system so that the prices will start to resume. Because if you're in a deflation, nobody wants to spend their money, right? Because if you know you hold your $10 bill, and if you're in a deflation zone, this $10 bill is going to buy you more if you hold it. But if you're in an inflation time, every day that goes by, this $10 bill becomes worth less and less. So there's the danger of a deflation, right? If it's a deflation, everybody holds their money. So in 1931, Britain came off the gold standard. After they came off, then Canada came off, Sweden, the Netherlands, Portugal, Egypt. Everybody came off the gold standard. Nobody wanted to be the last one on the gold standard. So now we get into 1932. Herbert Hoover's the president, FDR's running against him. So FDR wins the presidency, and in March of 1932, first day on the job, bank holiday, closes the bank for 4 days because there were bank runs, right? So people were nervous. They were nervous that the banks were going to go out of business, so they went to the bank, they got their bills out. Again, we're still in a deflationary time, so you want that physical money. FDR was able to restore confidence, so people actually returned the money to the bank. Crisis averted, right? So again, March 1932, let's fast forward to April 1933. This is when the gold confiscation came. This is when FDR said, send us your gold, we'll pay you $20.67. Now this was a plot to get gold, but also the idea was they needed to revalue. They needed to devalue the US dollar to match what was going on in Europe. So again, everybody else except for the US and France had already come off gold. So before the confiscation, gold was set at $20.67. After the confiscation, the dollar was devalued so that it now cost you $35 to buy 1 ounce of gold. But it was illegal to own. So US is off the gold standard. Next, France. So in 1935, France comes off the gold standard. Now nobody's on the gold standard. So what are we playing with now? We're paying paper bills, right? So now nobody's on gold standard. World War II comes along, then Bretton Woods in 1944. International Monetary Fund says the US dollar is now the reserve currency. It's redeemable to international partners. So if I'm in France, I can say, here is my $35. I want an ounce of gold. And this worked, right? Until 1971. That's when Nixon closed that gold window because people were actually coming to redeem that $35 gold. It was going to be a run on our gold supply. So in 1971, Nixon pulled us off the gold standard, and then gold was revalued to $42.22, right? Not a big jump, but still a revaluation. So gold right now is $42.22 according to the government. So what's the point of learning all this history about World War I to World War II? It just proves that if you hold your gold and you hold your silver, you control your destiny. If you're playing with paper money, the money can always be revalued. You are putting your faith, your fiat, into the government, right? And things happen, wars happen. And during World War I, everybody's currency was devalued. Germany's was destroyed. But even the US, we were one of the last ones that held on to that gold standard. But still, in an instant, 1933, boom, gold confiscation, revalued gold to 35, which meant that your dollar would buy you less. You didn't decide to devalue your dollar, it just happened. It was for the betterment of the country. We had to devalue because everybody else was devaluing. You don't want to have the strongest currency because then nobody buys anything from you, right? If things are so expensive in your country, nobody's going to be coming to buy your goods. That's why China wins, right? That's why China exports so many goods, because the value of their currency is low. It's cheap to make things there. I listened to the book Lords of Finance, and it really goes into depth about World War I, how we came out of it, and then how we led to Bretton Woods. I highly recommend the book. It is a long book, but get the audiobook and just listen to it. Again, it's not easy to listen to. I've listened to it a couple times and I'd have to restart it. I fall asleep to it, to be honest, but I enjoy it, and I really learned about the presidency of FDR. Think about it. He came on in 1932 and didn't pass away or end his presidency till 1945. That was a huge run. FDR brought in a lot of socialist programs, right? The New Deal. You know, maybe he became almost a 3-term tyrant, right? What the book revealed was that these political leaders and these financial giants, they were just people, right? You don't have to be a good person to be a great person. And I've heard that described when the Hamilton musical was going on. It said, you know, Thomas Jefferson was a great person, but he wasn't always necessarily a good person, right? He was into slavery, right? Fuck. The book does humanize people. You don't have to be good to be great. There's Keynesian economics, right? That's a person. It's a person in this book. FDR is a person. It shows his... So knowing the history of World War I and how Britain got off the gold standard also might explain why gold sovereigns. You'll see the dates for gold sovereigns. So I think it's important to learn your history, even though, again, it's not critical, right? You don't need it to go buy American Silver Eagles today, right? You don't need to know the history. It's just nice to have that background, right? So it shows that this isn't a new thing. This isn't a new fad. Gold and silver have been around forever. They've been discussed forever. And they do play a crucial role in the world economy, right? So we're not playing with coins. We're not messing around. This isn't just a hobby. Gold and silver make the world go round. Britain's currency goes down. and gold so they could have funds and currency. Before that, everybody was on a gold standard. $1